About 18 months ago, I came this way for journal to visit Taharoa and found a tiny Maori community a little south of Kawhia Harbour, existing mainly on subsistence farming, isolated, without electric power, a community thrown almost entirely upon its own resources, bounded by the lonely hills and Lake Taharoa on one side, by the Tasman Sea and creeping acres of black iron sands on the other. But it was this sand that was destined to bring a new era to Taharoa. Just 18 months ago, there was nothing here but sand. Today, this long-neglected mineral resource is being mined for export in a plan to ship at least 1 million tons of concentrate a year to Japan, with the promise of big money and royalties for some of the local Maori landowners. In this short space of 18 months, the village too has undergone a transformation. The power lines have pushed through the hills and reached into the community for the first time. Company staff houses have sprung up. A new village within the old, not very big perhaps, but growing, and big enough to exert a profound influence on the life of Taharoa. New additions to the school. Former sole head teacher John Barker has seen the roll jump from 22 to 37, with more to come. With the increase in numbers, he looks with some regret at the inevitable effect it must have on the former family-like atmosphere of his school. Among the first to display visible evidence of the changing fortunes of the community is the whanau family. The last time I saw them, they lived in this house. Now it's leased to a contractor, and they've moved up in the world, as you might say, to an elevated site and a new house with the power laid on. It was just a matter of being in the right place at the right time, and the whanau's grasped the opportunity to offer help and hospitality to the various contractors involved in the project from its early beginnings. Things look pretty good then, George, eh? So far, they are the only family to display this degree of material advantage in the village. But for others, there's regular work available for the first time. A New Zealand Steel representative told me that half the present workforce of 40 on the mining site is drawn from the local population. 20 men earning a basic take-home pay of about $70 a week. The company says there are opportunities provided on the job to gain greater skills, and there's also talk of school leavers from the district being encouraged to take up apprenticeships with New Zealand Steel at Glenbrook. There's even a trend towards returning to Taharoa. 3 former local boys, now tradesmen, have come back to find work where none existed before. But not everyone is rushing to work for the company. Take Sam Willison, for instance. He's been a farmhand ever since he left school at 15. Mind you, he looked at the opportunities.
I signed up, and then we had to have an interview. Well, that was as far as I got. I didn't know whether I'd like the job, the new job or not, and I liked this sort of work, and I worked the wages out, and the work I liked, well, there's no advantage going down there.
Nonetheless, Sam seems to have enjoyed a fringe benefit. His wages have been raised to $50 a week, plus the usual free house and free meat. It seems the company operations have established a going price for labour in Taharoa. While farmers like Mason Tahuia, who for years have watched the black sand creeping over their land, can now take a different view of the situation. It was not always so.
Well, it's more or less you feel as if you're going to lose it, with it encroaching over your grass. And the way of stopping them well is a costly business if you have to plant them in marram grass, unless you get aid from the government or somebody.
Did you ever feel discouraged and feel like giving up?
Well, I don't think so. I'm discouraged. I like to battle it.
But the battle may well be over for Mason. He's one of the lucky ones. Although the incorporation of Maori landowners sharing in the promise of royalties number over 600, he's one of only about a dozen major shareholders. Royalties payable by New Zealand Steel to the Maoris are expected to run to $150,000 a year for the first 5 years, thereafter rising to $250,000 annually.
Years back, well, just a sand, and you're covering good pastures, and it's a loss to everybody at the time. And now you're turning out as a, what you want, an asset.
But whether a major or minor shareholder, the exploitation of the iron sands touches everyone. Philip Tewia has found full-time work with the company, but still looks after his function as a Methodist lay minister for the village. The Pākehā invasion has already expanded his activities. For the first time in living memory, a European child was christened at the Pā.
Well, after burials, wedding ceremonies, and also baptism. First time, which is very interesting to me, is European parents brought their child for me to baptize.
It was Joy Lawrence who not only decided to have her little Fleur christened at the Pā, but also asked local people to be godparents to her daughter.
Well, when we first came here, the local ladies were particularly nice to us. The one that held her at the christening, she's one of the elders, and she came down here to see me and told me to go and see her if I had any problems and this type of thing. And well, she was so sweet, and we get on very, very well with the old local people, so we just wanted them as godparents.
The Japanese iron sand carrier, lying a mile offshore, loads to a tight schedule. There's little time for shore leave. In any case, what's to do once you are ashore? But in line with courtesy and public relations, New Zealand Steel ferries ships officers ashore for a tour of the mining site. The mining process is virtually a pumping operation. The suction dredge transfers the raw sand to the processing plant, where iron concentrate is separated. With only a fraction of the sand being reclaimed, the tailings go back where they came from, to be consolidated later by planting marram grass. The concentrate is pumped to a stockpile, where bulldozers feed it to the conveyor belt and thus to the holding tank, where it's mixed with water drawn from Lake Taharoa. And again the pumps take over, thrusting the mixture of sand and water through a mile of underwater pipeline to the mooring buoy and the waiting ship. Under good conditions, it's reckoned to pour about 45,000 tons of concentrate into the ship in 50 hours. She carries a crew of 32, working 6 hours on, 6 off. They keep a constant check on loading and maintaining the delicate balance between the incoming slurry and the ballast tanks. For Captain Susukita, there's the constant worry of unfavorable weather and his ship on a lee shore. But nonetheless, he took time off to ply us with unstinted hospitality. Thank you, Captain, very much. No geisha girls? Don't worry about it. We didn't expect any. George Cunner is the only Taharoa resident to be a member of the management committee set up to look after the interest of the Maori landowners. The prospect of new wealth has brought a new responsibility.
Well, I've always been interested in land. And I think that goes for everybody here. And to know that they are going to get money, I think they feel that they will have something to help them to develop the land.
But at times when you're working or perhaps riding along, can you really believe this?
Well, it took me a long time to get around to believing it. I know every time I go to work, well, I got to ride a horse, and then I'd ride along, and all of a sudden I'd snap out of what I was thinking about, you know. And then suddenly we realize, oh, it's right here, before us. It's not a dream at all.
However, the actual disposal of the royalties, has anyone actually had any cash in the hand yet?
No, not at all, Keith.
And there's the rub. No decision on how the cash will be distributed has yet been made by the committee. Some of it has already been earmarked for expenses, including annual payments to New Zealand Steel to pay for 1,200,000 shares, which have been bought on the Never Never from the company. There's also a suggestion that some of the money may go towards establishing a forestry project. But so far as the local shareholders are concerned, there's no doubt that they would like to see the colour of the money.
Well, at the moment I haven't got a wool shed, so that's I really need a wool shed. And we do a lot of spraying now. That with just a little bit of money we got, we do a lot of spraying. And we about 4 years back we aerial top dressed, but because of financial troubles, well, we had to give that up.
Meantime, the fringe benefits, particularly the power supply, reshape the lives of people in the village. Hello there. Tell me you've got a new fridge. What difference has it made to you?
Well, I used to go fishing a lot, and I catch a lot. I used to give most of them away. Now I've got this, well, I keep them all for ourselves.
And that's progress. The old community ways must change. But for the young, the freedom of Taharoa remains, and the commercial invasion merely adds a new and exciting dimension to their world.